Welcome back to AM Live. If you're just joining us, I am in the studio with innovators, persons who are pioneering global. You heard what the president said. They are global, so they're not just, don't call them local, global green solutions. And the lady, Ekobana, the lady whose organization was being spoken about as having won the HALT Prize is none other than Kylie Muthoni Ogola. And she was about to tell us, she'll get into that a little bit later on, about how they went from the low of thinking they would not win the prize to winning the equivalent of, let me check, since the Daily Nation has furnished us with exchange rate for 2020, what was it? Is it 100 million Kenya shillings? It was 100?
It was about 120 million.
120 million.
And the dollar was at 120.
Okay, so 120 million Kenya shillings. And you'll explain to us later on what that meant for you. We're hearing, actually, and I cut her short, from Nora Magero, and she is the founder as well as CEO Drop Access, and you probably know her from the Vaxibox. She's also herself an award winner for engineering, actually the first Kenyan woman to win it, right? The Africa Engineering Award for the Royal Academy of Engineering. So, and I think you won a prize of 3.2?
3.2 million Kenya shillings.
3.2 million Kenya shillings. Yeah. So they'll get into what that means for their work as we progress the conversation. But at what point were we talking about how now you are conceptualizing the Vaxibox, looking at the production chain, and but before I allow you to continue with that, let's also introduce the other panelists in studio with us this morning. Another engineer, both of you actually are mechanical.
Yes.
Engineers.
Yes, it's true.
And that is Engineer Lucy Muchinda. Her organization is called EcoCycle. And I was looking at some of the pictures on their Twitter, and she has told me there is a difference between clean and clear. But I was looking, look at this water. Wouldn't you drink this water? And do you know that this water has been recycled from wastewater? Tell us a little bit about what inspired EcoCycle.
So good morning. Thank you very much for inviting us here. I always say my story is I grew up in the village, and I happened to study in the village. I ended up in Moi University, which is also in the village. So my long-term stint in the city is when I was looking for work. So I remember when I came to the city, just coming out, going to drop CVs, the open sewer in the streets hit me, and I thought about it. As an engineer, I should find a solution to this. So at that time, I was just a student. I didn't quite know what I can do, but I just thought, I'm an engineering graduate, so somehow I should be part of the solution to solving this sewer crisis that I see every day. So because we don't have time, I can't give the whole story, but as fate had it, I also had dreams to study in Germany one time. Because as I was growing up, my father would show me a lot about Germany. My late father had studied around the world. He was a doctor. And I remember he loved German football, and a lot of time he would show me photos about Germany, and I would tell him one day I want to further my studies in Germany. So as fate had it, I got a scholarship through a program called Africa Compt, and I found myself in Germany. My track record had been in the automotive industry, and I was very obsessed with the automotive industry. So when I was leaving Kenya, I had already worked at Toyota, GM, and when I went to Germany, I was still attached to an automotive industry. And I'm trying to say that the trajectory is never straight. But while in Germany, in my free time, while visiting parks, because they have a lot of green spaces, I came across, one time in a park, I just came across a park attendant, and I just got interested. I'm like, I see all the parks in Germany are so green. Don't you have water shortages? Like, how do you get your water? So he told me in that specific park, they were recycling the water that park visitors come, they flush the toilets, and it's used to keep the lawns green even when water supply has gone short. And that struck my mind. And I remembered the open sewer back in Kenya, and I said, I think even despite being young, I finally have the link to the solution that I can take back to my country. So long story cut short, I came back to Kenya around 2010, and I was determined to shift gears from automotive to sewage recycling. So while I was in Germany, after getting the information, I did a lot of research and came across technologies. I even attended a trade fair and saw a variety of technologies that actually convert sewage to water. So when I came back, I was determined, and later in 2014, I founded EcoCycle. And what we do is we provide technology that converts the sewer that you generate from your toilets, from your bathrooms, from the kitchen, everything that goes to your septic tank. We put in a technology that in 8 hours converts it to clear, odorless water that is reusable to water your lawns. You can use it to flush the toilets, but it's not good for drinking because it still has high level of nitrates and some things that are not good for our organs, but very good for the plants because our human waste is like fertilizer. So in Kenya, you just have about 83% of Kenyans connected to municipal sewer. So ask yourself, where does the rest of the sewage go? We are all trying to soak it underground. If you go to Rongai, you will find it flowing in the night on the sewers, and it ends up back to our water bodies. We are talking about climate change. We are talking about water scarcity. We are talking about drought. So this sewage that we see smelly and flowing is 95% water. So you just need science and technology to remove the 5% that is harmful, and that's what our technology does. And so people reuse the water to maintain the lawns. It can go back to flush toilets, and it's chlorinated in case somebody drinks it, they won't get sick. But if you consume it over a long time because of the nitrates, it could affect your liver, kidneys, and other organs. So what we say at EcoCycle Limited, we turn sewage to clear, odorless water, not for drinking or cooking or showering, but to save your fresh water and cut your freshwater bills. And if you visit any home right now that has our treatment plant, you will see the difference. It's all brown outside, but inside where they've recycled, their lawns remain green 24/7. So you save water bills, you prevent wash-related diseases like cholera, and we could even generate electricity from this water. So it's recycling, circular economy, and treating waste as a resource. And I'm encouraged that we have a student here, that we are sure the future is sustainable. And we are here to tell you that even as you leave university, everything you see around you is a resource. When you see waste, think, what can you change it to? Because the government is talking about climate action, climate adaptation, trying to find renewable resources. And so sewage is one thing that is sustainable, because from when you woke up today, this morning, today there is sewage, tomorrow sewage will be generated. So it's a renewable, sustainable resource that will always be available. Yeah, that's what I could say.
And you know, when you were speaking, I was reminded of this article. I came across it on nation.africa, and she's quoted as having said, every opportunity is a chance for professional upskilling. And right now she's saying, look at everything as an opportunity, right? What can we do to make life better? And part of the reason I pulled this up is because she has a lot of credentials, a very long list. And this is my Mwa Kenya. And actually this article says Lucy Wanjiku Mutinda wears many hats. She is a hands-on mechanical engineer specializing in on-site wastewater treatment and recycling, founder and CEO of EcoCycle Limited, the first vice president of the Institution of Engineers. Former
2022.
All right. Oh yeah, 20. Okay. Former vice president of the former vice president of the Institution
of Engineers
of Kenya. 2021 top 50 Africa Business Heroes. Alibaba Foundation 2021 Allianz. Is that how you pronounce it?
Allianz
Scholar and Fellow for MBA, Analytics, Innovation and Leadership at the European School of Management and Technology, Berlin. Invest to Impact Award winner on climate change action and environmental protection. This was 2019. Again in 2019, Environmental Conservation champion of finalist DIAR Awards. And guess what? Top 40, under 40. Just the other day, we released our top 40 under 40. Ago. And this is 2018 Business Daily newspaper. Father, she is a wife and a mother of 2. You understand now why I needed a working. My humble brain could not contain all this information. So, I mean, kudos. It's incredible to have you, in studio with us. I'm sure even with Mudoni sitting here listening, Mudoni, you're like, you're seeing your future.
I'm seeing my future right here.
All right. So now let me introduce you to Eva Makandi. She is the founder of Light on a Hill. In fact, she was she's one of the 2022 what's it called? Forest restoration stewards. And I'll pull up the website in just a moment, and there we'll see pictures of her engaged in the activity that Light on a Hill undertakes. It's a community-based organization.
Yes, it is.
And in some of the pictures I spied, I saw you working with pupils, right, to plant trees. I saw you in a nursery. You know, you had funga da kitamba, because who in a nursery is busy slaying like this? So I saw you in a nursery. I saw you with the students, even with trash cans and all that. Tell us a little bit about Light on a Hill and what inspired it.
Thank you so much, Olive. Thank you for having us today. And congratulations, ladies, you're doing a beautiful job. So my name is Eva Makandi. I'm commonly known as Kandi, and I'm the founder of Light on a Hill organization. Since I can remember, I loved working with communities. I loved serving. And this was actually also inspired by my grandma, who was an educator and who inspired change in our community. I was actually raised, educated, and I studied in my village that is called Kirwa in Meru. And she inspired me to see how much education can bring change to the community. And of course, I wanted to be a doctor. You know how we grew up knowing these traditional courses, especially having a mom who was a nurse. But after interacting with patients in hospital, times I visited her there, I was so sure I never wanted to be a doctor. Like, I fear blood, I fear sick people, like not fear, like I'm just traumatized with all that. But still, I really had a heart for people. And I was privileged enough to pursue my undergrad in community development in Egerton. And I'm so grateful for that school because it gave me a real touch with the community. We were really exposed to community outreaches, and it made me love community work the more. And after that, I got to have an experience working with different communities in the country. But in 2020, I had this, I was in a really dark place personally. I had, we'd say, an experiential crisis. I felt that there are so many things happening to me, but, and that's how actually Light on a Hill was born. It was the light in my life, and I just thought it has a lot of Christian background coming from it. We hope to be like the light of the world, especially at that time when there was a lot of darkness, a lot of hopelessness in the world due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And my friend and I, Elias, we founded now Light on a Hill. And for a long time, I had seen a lot of socioeconomic challenges in my community. And I was sure now I really wanted to touch base with my community. Being a community that greatly relies on agriculture for livelihoods, over the past 15 years or so, I had seen a lot of decline, degradation of our community. And I felt it was time to, based on the knowledge I had learned in school, through my experience in different communities, I was like, hey, what about now being the change I seek to see in my community? As I mentioned, I had grown up I was actually raised by my grandma, so I had grown up with a very beautiful environment, a lot of forests, a lot of rivers, plenty of food. There was a lot of food, fruits, but that had really declined over the years. And of course, poverty levels are going high in my community. And that's how I started the conversation. How about we partner with farmers? I started at that note, partnering with farmers, educating them on why we need to restore our environment. I would, of course, the basic knowledge. I think anytime we think about climate action, most of the time what comes to mind is planting trees. And that's also the idea I had at the time. So I would partner with farmers, plant trees, but unfortunately, following back on the progress, most of those trees had died. And the reason being, these farmers did not relate to why are we planting trees? What we need is food, what we need is money. And that's how I went back to the drawing board. We went back to the drawing board and decided, hey, now it's time we focus. There's a huge knowledge gap and we need to focus on educating. And at the time, of course, we did not have so much resources. You know, there's all this thing when we hear an NGO or an ungovernmental organization, we think of the incentives of money that they'd give us. But that's something I really wanted not to focus on and to think differently. And that's how now we went back to now focusing on working with children. And I went back now to my roots, focusing, partnering with the community, the school I schooled at, Mama Day School. And I was happy that and grateful that I had a very accommodative headmistress there who gave me like an opportunity to work directly with the kids. And we focus now on 5 to 12-year-olds. And now we focus on, of course, our main drive being climate action and restoration. We use now education and art to drive this change. And how we use art is we make learning exciting, not just going to class and just reading, but we make it so exciting in the fact that kids can relate with it. You know, in a very digitalized world. So like we have, as you can see, we have like a tree nursery, and we involve directly the kids to learn from a seed. Like it's also a life lesson. They bring the seeds. We tell them, if you have an avocado at home, be kind enough, bring it to us. Let's show you how it's propagated. We work with them, and even in the long term, we tell them that this is a story of your life. Like things don't just happen. As even Kylie said, there are so many no's. Sometimes there'll be drought. Those seeds might die, but you know, if you keep on nurturing them, if you keep on watering them, if you keep on weeding them, you know, there are all these challenges in life, but there's always a solution. There's something you can do. And after they see maybe a seedling growing, you know, they already have this touch with nature. They already have this understanding that why should we really take care of this? It's not just getting a seedling, planting, and leaving it. And that's why we actually changed our efforts to focus on understanding, because I felt that and observed that there was a very huge challenge and a very huge knowledge gap on why people should restore. It never made sense to them. Why people just litter. If you go outside here, like you'll see a lot of litter.
And it's the most irritating thing.
It is so annoying. It's so annoying, and this is my call. Please guys, stop littering. It's so annoying. And I think it comes from a place of not understanding what you're doing to the environment. And that's why I'm really focused on educating, understand why. And I'm so happy with these ladies because already they're coming up with solutions. The challenges there are actually opportunities, as engineer just said. So like, I'm so inspired by so many innovators who are even recycling plastics to make, the young lady who's making the poles, the electric poles, and I'm so happy with all these innovations. And something else we do is also invite artists to come and teach kids on how to make art from, for instance, recycled glass. And also a way of also leveraging art, we inspire these kids to maybe to make plays that communicate the story of conservation. Another way we do it is by partnering with the older generation who come and share stories of how maybe 50 years ago, how the world was like, how the environment was like, and how it's degraded over time and why we need to restore it. So it's we co-harness and harness education and art in also a bid to inspire kids not to just think of being doctors or teachers. You know, they're amazing careers, but there are also different ways of, there are different careers. We can be artists, we can be educators like myself in the community and inspire change and make learning more interesting. So that's how Light on a Hill came to be.
All right, and I love that it's looking at the next generation, and I've just pulled this video off of the Global Landscapes Forum because you're being honored. This this international tomorrow. Why am I talking like it's far? Coming on it tomorrow by them, and you're one of 16 women, right? Let me just refer to my other Mwakenya. Just give me a second here. But they're celebrating the work that you're doing, and it's inspiring that you're seeking to inspire and explain to the next generation why this matters, why reforestation matters, and restoring as a restoration steward. And she's lived, Eva has seen for herself the difference growing up, right, to what her environment was like then and what it is like now. So my science editor, Zainab Wandati, had actually shared with me a little bit about that recognition you're getting. So let me just pull that up. All right. And she is one of 16 women restoring the earth, and she will be celebrated for making a difference through the spectacular work, field projects, and innovations. And this event is being held where? Let me see. Why am I missing the date? Is it in Germany somewhere?
Yeah, Luxembourg.
Sorry?
Luxembourg.
Luxembourg. Yeah. So speaking of destinations, perhaps speaking of destinations, perhaps you can tell us a little bit more, Muthoni, about how you came from Mr. Lennox, and I must meet this Mr. Lennox, saying we are likely not to win, but regardless, let's keep trying. How did you get from that point to actually coming through on top?
Okay, so from that point you find that yes, we know we are not going to win, but then again we still present not to look cowardish, and because we're still presenting Kenya, so we're like, okay, let's still take our flag high, as much as we know we're not getting anywhere. So after that we are top 2, and we are like, wow, this is extremely amazing. We did not expect, because we had already lined up from top 6 to to the first one, but we were nowhere over the, during when we were listing up the whole list. So now we have top 2, and we're like, wow, this is amazing. Okay, now we're going to New York. So this time we will do our level best and make sure that we definitely go. And then we talk to the health press, we tell them that our visas are still in 2024. So they actually find a way of helping us, and our visas are now taken back to September 9th in 2022. And they're supposed to be traveling on September, is it 17, if I'm not wrong. So that's good news. Now we have to prepare for the interview. We prepare for the interview very well. We go for the interview. We passed the interview. Now we're waiting for our visas as we start preparations on making sure that our pitch decks are okay, our flow of pitching is okay, and then 3 days to traveling. The rest of the visas are here. So is this
like Shark Tank? It sounds like Shark Tank, doesn't it?
It's actually like Shark Tank, because it's a request that you're making, and you have to say why you want the $1 million. So now the visas come free there, and my visa is not there. It's only the gents visa. And it's 3 days. You've been preparing everything, so there's no time to start crying and be like, okay, now we're not going, let's see what you can do to get my visa. We were not focused on that. So we are like, okay, the visas are 3, sawa, let's talk with the 3. And now we have to again change the script to fit the 3 gentlemen, and like try and focus on all the areas and make sure that they still know of what we've been learning throughout. Because you'll find menstrual hygiene is a huge space. So for them it was kind of tricky for some concepts, especially learning they'll learn, but saying them out at some point it was like, that's weird, you'll be doing that, Kaylee. And now Kaylee's not going, so you guys will have to do this. So we rehearse and make sure that they do not redo the previous script, because if they do that again, we're messed up. And the days for traveling are here. We take them to the airport, we wish them luck. I'm like, okay, you guys now, we're no longer telling a story. You guys, it's either you come back with 1 million or you don't come. So that's the deal. And they're like, okay, really don't say like that. And I'm like, I'm serious actually. That's the issue. So they go, and the day before the competition, now they're there. I see on the group, and they're like, you guys, your slides are pathetic. There's something wrong with it. Now you have to start again working on the slides. There's tension on that side because we have never been on a global stage. We're used to being in a place whereby it's people like us. Now when you meet people who are different, you're like, wow, okay. There's a lot of tension. It's the first time being in out of Kenya, overseas. So everything, it
was their first time?
Yes.
Ever?
So everything is everywhere. You're not sure if you're supposed to be preparing for your competition, if you're supposed to be looking around the people that you're seeing and not the people that you're used to. But yes, the time is here. We work on the slides final time, and they're like, okay, perfect, they're working. So after that, they do the whole pitch, and I'm like, wow, these are my guys. They did it good. And Health Prize Kenya was actually great enough, and it organized some event for me and other people from Health Prize who are in Kenya to come and watch when everything is happening.
Okay, that
so
was
we're
nice.
Watching everything, and these people are even answering questions nicely. And they're like, wow, I'm so
You are the biggest cheerleader.
Yeah, because some of the questions initially they will be hesitant to answering them, but right now they're so confident because it was like, it's this one time. It's either you make it or you mess it up. There's no any other second chance. And after that, there's a break. People in Nairobi are trying to like do all sorts of let's play games so that they can switch my mind. But then I'm like, oh my God, I'm already seeing the winning team. And I don't think it's us. And I'm chatting with them, and they're like, Kylie, we did our best, but this is not ours. Anyway, we'll try another day. Probably there's someone who will approach us after this. So the announcement is here, and the guy goes rounds and rounds before telling us who's number one. And then abruptly, without expecting, and he's like, yeah, Ikobana. And what did you do? So like, that was the greatest moment. You're like, are you sure that is us? Because I had to wait for the second time, and I'd be like, oh my God, it's us.
You know, I was actually curious about that, about the why I saw just the three guys in the pictures, because when I was looking like online, look, they met Bill Clinton.
Yes.
Wow, where's Mr. Lennox?
We'll ask him, where's Mr. Lennox, the famous Mr. Lennox. Next time you have to come with Mr. Lennox. And I was wondering, okay, so where is, I'm really sorry about the whole visa mix-up. Sorry about that. Next time, and I'll come back to you. Tell us what that 120 million has meant for you. And also, when we're listening to the president speak, he said the Ministry of Education should work with you guys to provide sanitary towels. So you can also tell us a little bit about that. But before then, Nora, I also